On a freezing roadside, a tiny puppy wrapped himself around a trembling kitten, both abandoned and forgotten. Most cars drove past, unaware of the miracle unfolding in the snow. But when one person finally stopped, what happened next turned despair into hope, and their story left the world in tears. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the gray sky, covering the roadside in a cold white blanket. Amid the silence of the forest road, two tiny figures huddled together. A German shepherd puppy and a ginger kitten pressed against each other, their bodies trembling, their breaths shallow in the biting winter air. The puppy tried to shield the kitten with his small frame, whimpering softly every time a gust of wind howled through the trees. The kitten pressed closer, its weak meow barely audible, but its eyes never leaving the puppy's side. Together, they found comfort in their fragile companionship. Cars sped past, headlights glowing against the snow, but no one slowed down. To the world, they were invisible, two abandoned lives struggling to survive. Yet in that moment, their bond was stronger than fear. Against the odds, the puppy and kitten had already chosen each other as family. That afternoon, a red car appeared through the falling snow, its headlights cutting through the mist. Inside sat a woman named Clara, returning home after work. Her eyes widened when she spotted two small shapes on the roadside, motionless against the white. Something in her heart told her to stop. At first, she hesitated. Strays often wandered the area, and many drivers simply passed by. But as she slowed, a weak bark pierced the stillness, followed by the faintest cry of a kitten. Clara's chest tightened. These weren't just strays, they were desperate, and they were freezing. Pulling over, she opened her door, the icy wind hitting her face. She stepped carefully toward the pair. The puppy lifted its head, ears back, trying to appear brave, while the kitten shivered, pressed against his side. In that fragile scene, Clara realized they were clinging to each other to survive. Clara crouched slowly, her boots crunching against the snow. She extended her hand, speaking softly so as not to startle them. The puppy let out a weak growl, his tiny body trembling but determined to protect the kitten. His eyes, filled with fear and courage, locked firmly on hers. The kitten pressed closer against him, refusing to move. Its tiny paws shook, but it didn't try to run. Instead, it seemed to draw strength from the puppy's fragile bravery. Clara's heart broke at the sight. Two helpless creatures bound together by survival and loyalty. "Shoo, it's okay," she whispered, inching closer. Slowly, she wrapped her scarf around both trembling bodies, lifting them gently into her arms. The puppy whimpered but didn't resist, the kitten curling into the warmth of her coat. In that moment, Clara knew she wasn't rescuing just animals. She was saving a family. Clara drove straight to the nearest animal shelter, the two fragile bodies tucked inside her coat. The warmth of the car thawed their trembling slightly, but their eyes remained wide with fear. When the staff saw them, gasps rippled through the room. They had rarely seen such a heartbreaking sight. The puppy was malnourished, his ribs faintly visible beneath his fur. The kitten was no better, weak, dehydrated, and barely able to stand. A veterinarian rushed forward, wrapping them in blankets and checking their tiny pulses. "It's a miracle they survived this long," one staff member whispered, shaking her head. Despite their exhaustion, the puppy refused to be separated from the kitten. Every time a worker tried to move one without the other, whimpers and cries echoed through the shelter. It was clear they weren't just surviving together. They had become each other's lifeline, their bond impossible to break. Days turned into weeks, and the shelter staff poured their hearts into nursing the little ones back to health. Warm milk and soft food slowly filled their bellies, and the once lifeless eyes began to shine again. The puppy's tail gave its first weak wag, a flicker of hope. The kitten, too, began to change. Its frail body grew stronger, paws steadying with each step. Late at night, the staff often found the pair curled together in a single blanket, purring and snoring softly. Their bond wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, healing them in ways medicine couldn't. Every milestone, no matter how small, brought tears to the workers' eyes. The puppy's first bark of joy, the kitten's playful swipe at a toy. Each moment proved that love had pulled them back from the edge. Against all odds, they weren't just recovering, they were learning to live again. One afternoon, a volunteer snapped a picture of the unlikely duo, curled together in the same bed, the puppy's paw draped protectively over the kitten. The photo was posted on the shelter's social media page, and within hours, it spread like wildfire. Thousands of people shared, commented, and sent messages of support. Strangers from across the country wrote, "They have to stay together, and this bond is too special to break." Donations poured in, helping the shelter continue their care. Journalists even stopped by to feature their story, moved by the rare and beautiful friendship. The little pair had become local celebrities. With every share, more families expressed interest in adopting them, but only if they could remain together. The shelter staff smiled through tears. For once, the world agreed on something simple yet profound. These two souls weren't just pets, they were meant to be a family. One crisp Saturday morning, a family walked into the shelter. A couple with two young children whose eyes lit up the moment they saw the puppy and kitten. The little boy knelt down, extending his hand, and the puppy bounded forward with a weak bark, tail wagging as if he had been waiting. The kitten approached more cautiously, but when the little girl scooped it gently into her arms, it began to purr loudly, nestling against her chest. The parents exchanged a smile, their hearts already decided. "They belong with us," the father said firmly, "and we'll take both, together." Shelter staff, who had prayed for this very outcome, erupted in tears of joy. Papers were signed, supplies prepared, and the children hugged their new friends tightly. For the first time since their abandonment, the puppy and kitten weren't just survivors. They had finally found their forever family. The drive home was filled with excitement. The puppy's nose pressed eagerly against the window, while the kitten curled on the little girl's lap, purring in perfect rhythm. When they arrived, the children raced inside, eager to show their new friends the rooms, the toys, and the backyard waiting for them. The puppy bounded through the grass, clumsy paws tumbling as he chased after a ball. The kitten, more graceful, leapt onto the porch rail, surveying her new kingdom with curious eyes. Yet when night fell, they returned to what felt most natural, curling up together on a single blanket. The family watched in awe, snapping photos to capture the moment. The children whispered goodnight, promising endless adventures ahead. For the puppy and kitten, once abandoned and forgotten, this home was more than shelter. It was the beginning of a new life, filled with love and belonging. It wasn't long before the neighbors noticed the pair. Children from nearby houses came running just to see the playful duo in the yard, the puppy chasing sticks while the kitten darted after him, their laughter-like sounds echoing through the street. Soon, their story spread beyond the shelter walls. People began to see them not just as pets, but as symbols of hope. Teachers shared their story in classrooms, reminding students about kindness and loyalty. Local papers ran headlines about the puppy and kitten who chose each other. Everywhere, hearts softened, inspired by the unbreakable bond of two fragile lives. For the family, the lesson was simple yet profound. Compassion saves lives. The puppy and kitten had taught them, and their entire community, that love knows no boundaries. Species, size, or circumstance didn't matter. What mattered was that they had found each other, and they had found home. Months later, the puppy had grown stronger, his once ribbed frame now filled with energy, while the kitten blossomed into a graceful companion. Yet despite their growth, one thing never changed. They still slept curled together, paw over paw, just as they had on that cold winter road where their story began.